Hello, welcome to Arcadia. Sorry in advance for the echo, but today I needed a big location to shoot the video, because this is going to be an unboxing video. Normally in these videos I unbox these boosters of 4 pre-painted Dungeons and Dragons miniatures from WizKids, Icons of the Realms. But just like the first ever video that I shot for this channel, unboxing Fantasy Series 1 by Blacklist Games, this time I have something special. See, I was part of a Kickstarter in November 2020, if my memory doesn't fail me, about something called Bardsung. So today by lunch I found out this, waiting for me. Oh, sorry, this and this. Just look at the sheer size of these things. These are huge. So basically what I will do in this video is unbox everything, show you how it looks, give you some reviews on the unboxing process and how everything was accommodated and the quality of the miniatures and everything just at a first glance. And I will probably make a video further down the line with a more detailed review, with a more in-depth comments, and after I had time to really look into the things, maybe even play it a little, I don't know. But today, you're going to see all of these get unwrapped. We're actually going to start with this one, because this is what the main Kickstarter is about. Bardsung Legend of the Ancient Forge. This is the main thing. This is where all the minis and all the main part of the game is, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this thing is so big that I actually had to put my overhead camera in pan out mode. So we received immediately by this beautiful sheet, inspire the songs, live your legend, become Bardsung. This is the motto of the whole Kickstarter, and God, it's a good one. So right out of the bat, we see many tiles and tokens to be used during the game. So although this is technically a miniature unboxing, this game is a full-fledged game. It is not by any chance just a line of miniatures. It is a complete game that you can play with your friends. It has these procedural content generator. It basically creates a dungeon as you go. You discover it room by room. These will be rooms of the dungeon, but it also has some RPG elements. So what you see here is several, I'm counting 5 sheets of, you know, that hard cardboard so that you can cut out, that is very frequent in tabletop games. And these are going to be the tiles and probably some other game elements. Flipping around, you can see what seem like coins and status markers. There is one big boss in this game, and this is its wing. Wow. Wow. Right out of that, we see some trays of miniatures, which is pretty cool, but I see a double function in these. Let me open them. I see a double function in these trays, because it seems to me they're not meant only to carry miniatures. Okay, you can see the heroes, what would be the player characters of this game, are the golden ones. And I'll probably need to show these individually, because the camera is so panned out right now that you can't possibly wait to see everything. And yeah, these are comfortably packed in here, but these 4 boxes here and the standard shape of each hole, each honeycomb, suggests to me that these can also be used to store game elements. And in fact, we have some very interesting boxes and trays here, which seem to be for the same function. You can see these angled, these rounded trays to hold many game components. There's 2 of them. And also you got, these are thinner, so there are more of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 trays like this, which I've already seen in some of the material that Steamforged Games, they already had shown us a little bit some sneak peeks of the actual game functioning. And these are trays for us to keep track of our characters. So these are spaces for us to place tokens and probably life counters, the card for our character. This is very well thought out, even though the finishing is not as polished as I like. I mean, obviously getting this is already pretty good, but it still is this ugly standard black plastic. Regardless, we have 6 of these. Let me start getting these out of the way because there's a lot more to discover. We have this other side tray with the wings of the big bad guy of this campaign, along with 3 decks of cards, sorry. These can be equipment and powers probably that you can use along the game. It is very curious how this game has this character building system and character progression that's very similar to RPGs, even though it is technically a tabletop game. So just try to imagine the size of the beast from the size of the wings alone. It has many dice here that will probably serve some function in the game. I'm not sure because I was not paying that much attention during the actual game content being revealed because I was too worried drooling at the miniatures. And here, I'm sorry, I'm going to just flip this upside down briefly because I need to see it. Here we have some of the miniatures. So as I said, the golden ones are the hero miniatures. These can apply to a lot of different races in fantasy. In D&D specifically, we have this, which can easily be a turtle. We have your standard humanoid types. We have this bird folk that can serve easily as a kenku. And then we have several enemies. And I will go into this in more detail after this, because right now I'm just going through the initial shock. And just look at the amount of miniatures that we can find here. This is taking me back to Fantasy Series 1, but with a game component. And my luck is that I'm recording all of this, because otherwise I wouldn't know where to put where after this was done. So let me flip this upside down so you can see it as well. These are also many other enemies that you can find throughout the dungeon that you will be creating. You have this wraith-like entity. You have many repeated miniatures that can be used as mobs. For example, these are some ghoulish-like undead. Probably these will be more earth elemental type of creatures, I believe. We also have these, not sure if these are dwarves or if they are another species of humanoid, of evil humanoids. And underneath all of this, first my eyes get immediately drawn to this beauty. Oh my god. Look at this. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the big bad evil guy in my campaign. Yeah, once I put the wings on this thing, it's going to look amazing, I'm sure. And the amount of it, this is beyond gargantuan for Dungeons and Dragons size. We have some more miniatures down here. We have this Dwargar riding a spider, I think. This is an adder cap, if I'm not mistaken. The miniatures in this tray are a little bit tumbled over. Oh, these are actually fell together. This is a hook horror mixed with the Grick, I guess. And this is a Grick outright. We have several decks of cards in here, and these should be the abilities. We have monster cards for the enemies, probably. Some other monster cards. This is probably an ability deck. Second Wind, at least the name evokes in me some Dungeons & Dragons memories. This deck seems to be about situations, probably something that you can draw during the game to discover what happens and what trouble your band of heroes encounters now. Lurking Horror, something similar probably, or something that causes monster encounters. This is Trapdoor, probably another situational deck. And just by looking at these, you can get a pretty good feel of how the game probably works. Throwing Rocks, probably the same thing. Most of these games that generate a dungeon as you play resort to these kind of random content generators to actually move the story forward. And this is, I don't want to read them all because I don't want to spoil the surprise for myself, but these alone probably give us already a very good impression of what the game is supposed to be. Now, this is the main tray, I believe. Let's open this so you can see. For sure, the whole tray is not going to fit under the camera, but I will do my best to show you everything. Okay, this is a little bigger than I thought it would be, so I'll take a photo of this, and that's what you'll probably be seeing right now, just to show you how it looks. It is way bigger than I expected, which makes sense if you think that this is a game that generates dungeons, and you will be adding room by room to the adventure that you're going through, and so you'll need a lot of space. It makes sense that the game board is this big. But it is quite misleading because it fits quite well. You just have to be very, very careful because it's so big, and because the square itself is not that large. You have to open it in an S pattern, and I bumped a little bit on the edge of one of the squares, and it's already flaking. So I need to be careful with this. And now, this Legend of the Ancient Forge, this is the rule book of the adventure. And right beside it, you have the adventure book. So this is for you to learn how to play the game. This is for you to actually play through the adventure, I'm guessing. And just look at the size of the book. Very big, very, very, very big. And underneath, you have some more miniatures, carefully packed underneath this layer of plastic. You have this big ugly rat, you have spiders, I'm not going to touch those, you have, this is an orc or a bugbear king, I think. The amount of detail is really, really good. I'll have to take a second look at these. Oh, look at this, this is beautiful. I'll have to take a look at these individually, but this seems like really, really good. You can see also a little deck of cards here. Open this end first, stop here if you're playing the exploration or tutorial. Again, this box seems to take a good advantage of the little nooks and crannies that it has for you to be able to store everything and use it as holders during the game. Really, really good design. And I'm very surprised with the details on the miniatures. I really am. I mean, this is the same kind of plastic that I've seen with Fantasy Series 1. Some of the miniatures, like this spider, they are so smooth that it's probably not going to be a lot of fun painting, but some other miniatures like these, all these textured fur-like body parts, or this, you can see these Yeti. I don't really remember what each of these monsters were, but these seem fairly much more well detailed. The only thing that I am kind of thinking, looking at these, obviously this is the larger miniature box, but these all seem very, very big for their size. And now that I'm looking at it, probably this miniature, for example, this doesn't seem to have a 2.5 centimeter base. So probably this rat won't be 100% compatible with Dungeons and Dragons if you plan to use the same kind of grid. Some other miniatures like this, yeah, this doesn't make much sense to me. Much bigger miniature than the rat. Let's put them side by side for you to see. But much bigger miniature, smaller base. Don't really understand why, because what this base size makes me, and I only saw one miniature so far, so maybe it's not that much of a big deal, but this prevents me from using this miniature in Dungeons and Dragons in my normal games. I can see the Greg here. This is not as serious because this is clearly a large creature, but still the base doesn't have 5 centimeters of diameter. So I am guessing that even though I can't pass these as a large creature, I'm going to have a much bigger trouble doing the same for this one. Nevertheless, I'm really, really impressed. So I'm going to store this away and take out the other box for us to see before getting into the more nitty-gritty details of how this Kickstarter experience went for me. Hey, look at that. You can see my face again. So this was a very large box. Sorry if I brushed through everything really quickly. I will go into more detail in the miniatures. But before, I just wanted to unbox this too. This is this says Bardsung Fables on the cover. I don't remember what's the difference, but if I'm not mistaken, this is an extra adventure. I think it's an expansion. So this box is almost exclusively made of miniatures. As you can see, there are 25 miniatures here. Some of them are 25, sorry, this one counts for 2. As you can see, there are also heroes in the mixture, but most of these miniatures are the smaller kind, and these I believe that already fit into the 2.5 centimeters rule of Dungeons and Dragons. I just found a miniature with just a little bit of hair or thread or plastic still attached. Doesn't bother me that much. I can take care of that myself. Although I saw now another miniature, this equivalent of a Warforged, that also has a bigger base. So this is something that I will need to look out for, because yeah, this is something that so far it's the thing that bothered me the most about this this whole product. Underneath this tray we see some more miniatures. This is also sealed, and we can see some more cards. So I do really think that this is an expansion. We see a deck of cards. This is one of the heroes, Skull Splitter. We have a whole lot more cards, and these are the different types probably. They are probably ability stacks or something. You can see like this. This is called Demon's Anger, Elven Boots. So this seems to be a mixture of powers and equipment. We can see a lot more cards probably about NPCs and monsters that we can find in this game, and some more cards probably about objects. These are kobold robes. Love to get some of these. Something really cool that I spotted the moment I opened this box was that among the miniatures, like hidden in plain sight, there's this coin which is actually metal, and it's a really nice coin, a really nice thing to have, not only for this game but for your other RPG endeavors, stuff the kind of stuff that you can use in D&D to give to your players toward inspiration. For example, I've been meaning to do that for a very long time, but very nice prop to use in the game, even though I think this is probably not the best place in the whole box to store it. And again, some more miniatures. The same problem with the base. This is not a 5 centimeter base. I do get that this is a standalone game, and this one sounds about right. I do understand that this is a standalone game, and it has no obligation to fit Dungeons and Dragons criteria. But regardless, it would be nice if they did, because that way I would be able to use these miniatures for 2 things in my life, which would make their value much greater. I will be now showing you every miniature individually, so you can judge by yourself if you like this product or not, because this will be available for general public purchase after this. Probably even now it is already available. But let me just, while you see them, tell you about my whole experience with this Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter itself started on November 2020. It was released by Steamforged Games, which was a name that right out of the bat rang a bell in my head, because they were the same guys that made the first ever Critical Role official miniature line before they partnered with WizKids. And well, that was already a recipe for success in this Kickstarter. But I gotta say, this was the best Kickstarter experience I ever had. Not only the actual fulfillment of the Kickstarter was very good, it happened without a hitch and on schedule, but beside that, it was fun. I mean, the updates on the Kickstarter were made in a way that was enveloping us in a narrative story, actually. There was this character, the Bard, that would take us on a story as we kind of made choices by the actual main characters of the game. Because you know all the golden miniatures that we just saw in the box? Well, those are the main characters. Those are the playable characters that you can use to play the game. they actually have names. They are not reverted to the basic generic description of human male, female elf, whatever. They actually have names, and they are quite cool ones, actually. But more than that, the way that the updates and the story progressed, it invited us to be part of the story, to make choices for the characters. On each message, Bard would ask us for our opinion, what should be the outcome of a certain situation, what should the heroes do, and our choices would dictate the next leg of the story. And theoretically, it would affect the way the Kickstarter was progressing as well, because as these stretch goals kept being smashed and new miniatures kept being added to the basic package, we were made to believe that our choices were having an influence on that, specifically on the last miniature of the first batch, because that one was originally one of the main characters that you could choose for the game. The way everything was done was we were asked what would be the names, the heroes that we wanted to have in the game. Our choices dictated that, and some heroes got dropped out because we didn't choose them. Now, through our choices in that narrative story that we were experiencing as the Kickstarter went on, we kinda got back some of them. So we were led to believe that our actions, our choices in the story were having a direct effect on the actual Kickstarter. Now, obviously, we all know this is not correct, this is not true. If they went to the trouble of actually producing the model for each miniature, they were going to make it. They were not going to throw work out of the window. I would be unhappy if they did that, just because we didn't choose the character. But even though we know that we were kind of being tricked, we went along with it because that was not the interesting part. The interesting part was the story. We were kind of influencing the way the story was being told, and that was, to me, what I found was the most fun. And the last choice that we made was the one that stuck with me the most as the best, because we were given the choice if we would save or if we would kill the last player character that we didn't get to choose. And if we decided to kill him, I think the miniature would actually appear in the box as well, but as a villain. But we decided to save the guy. It was the Goliath known as Skull Splitter, if I'm not mistaken, and because we saved him, he became a player character, and that was a hugely rewarding thing for me to be a part of that experience. It was something that I never saw done in any Kickstarter, and I wonder why it is not done more, because it was pretty cool. So this by itself was very interesting. It was very interactive on the part of the creative team behind this Kickstarter. So kudos to that, already making my experience with this Kickstarter very good. However, this Kickstarter did something that I never saw any other do. It gave us more than we thought we would get after the Kickstarter was over. And this was what stuck with me as the most amazing thing, because the Kickstarter was over, they were not collecting money anymore, and at some point in 2021, they decided to say, oh, by the way, we found an extra dungeon. Do you want to explore it? And they took us again in this narrative experience through the updates in the Kickstarter. And every once in a while, they would tell us, they would present us with a choice. They would describe a new room of the dungeon to us with a new monster in it. And very much after the Kickstarter was done, was closed, we kept getting new monsters. They just decided to say, oh, by the way, we want to give you extra stuff. Here you go, no extra charges. It was not an add-on, it was not something extra, it was not a Kickstarter 2.0, it was just a gift. And that was great. It was just such a cool surprise. I actually felt guilty because I was not giving them any more money. I'm not sure why they took this decision, but I'm glad they did, because it resulted in a very positive experience for me. And I think this could have been a strategic maneuver on their part, because this is a game that will be available in stores and in other places like that. So it makes sense to me that they would try to keep adding material to it, because they would be able to sell it one way or another later on. But it wasn't necessary, right? and we still got these bonuses, so I was very happy with it. So all in all, it was just a great experience. I'm not sure if they fulfilled the delivery date 100%, but I don't care because I knew it was getting in early 2022. It got early in 2022. So I'm just very, very pleased with Steamforged Games. If they ever make a Kickstarter like this again, and if I have money and if I have space in my house, I will definitely be supporting them again, because it was by far the most fluid and worry-free experience I had in any Kickstarter I ever backed. And sure, I don't have a vast experience in Kickstarters. I think I was only burned once with Reach of Titan, but still, I think overall this was such a good experience that it takes every worry out of my mind of ever backing another Steamforged Games project, Kickstarted or not. As for the delivery conditions, if you want my review on that as well, I think that it went on fairly standard. The box that I got this game in came a little dented, but that's nothing to do with Steamforged Games. It's just post office stuff. Quality of the miniatures. The plastic was quite similar to the one used in Fantasy Series 1, so I'm kind of familiar with already. It's the kind of plastic that breaks before it bends. Regardless, I think the miniatures look cool. The design was very well made. The texture on some of them I like really a lot. Some others, I think they are too smooth to be painted as well. The Big Devil, I mean, wow, such a great miniature. Can I even call this a miniature? It's just such a great piece, and I'm definitely using it as the BBEG of my campaign. I've been waiting for this to arrive for ages because of that. So yeah, this is just perfect. Poses, also pretty solid. I mean, some of them are not very outstanding, but most of them are pretty dynamic. The player characters specifically, they all have this expressiveness to them that I like a lot. And the only thing that bothers me really, really much is the size of the bases, because I know that this is something that I shouldn't be bothered about, because, well, I bought a game, I didn't buy a line of miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons, but still, I would have liked to have miniatures that I could use in everything I have, and I still can, but it's going to be a little bit more, funky on the board. I know that this is something that Steamforged Games probably shouldn't be blamed about, but it's just the one major thing that I don't like about these miniatures just right away. Anyway, I will have more time in the next few days and weeks, and probably months if we consider painting all of these, to actually get to know the miniatures, get to know the game, get to be acquainted with the rules. So I will probably have a more insightful review to share with you when that actually happens. Until then, I hope that this was enough for you to satisfy your curiosity of what is Bardsung, and if it's worthy or not to buy it once it reaches the shelves. I can't say anything about the gameplay yet. I like the concept, and I like that it had a role-playing component to it, at least from what I saw during the actual Kickstarter. So that's already a good plus for me. I need to see if it's overly complicated, but at the same time complex enough. I need to see if the game flows well, if the power balance is okay before I actually give any comments on that. But at least as far as the miniatures go, I'm very pleased. And most of all, the Kickstarter experience itself was just amazing. So if you want my advice, if you want my review on whether to buy Bardsung or not, from the miniature quality alone, I think it's worth it. I considered it was a good deal, especially if you think that just the giant devil miniature alone is something that would probably cost you around 50 euros or 60 to 70 US dollars just to get alone. So that alone almost pays for 1/3 of the box, in my opinion, if you get a retail price around $200 or something. So I think it's worth it. But I'll be sure to leave another video soon if you want to leave my more in-depth review, something more, somewhat more shortened as well, and not as much of a first reaction as this one was. So I hope this was informative in any way. If you would like to see unboxing videos of miniatures, D&D related or not, please be sure to check my Arcadia Unboxed playlist. And there's a lot in this channel for you to see as well if you like RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons specifically. There's a whole playlist dedicated to teaching new players to get to know the game and to learn how to play from the very beginning, and also some more advanced videos for tips on role-playing, for example. And there's also a whole playlist for Dungeons and Dragons and for storytellers as well, because I think that most of the lessons that I learned as a Dungeon Master also strengthen my ability to tell stories in comic books and in writing. So I think you'll find cool advice there as well. Anyway, this was the unboxing video. I hope that you liked it. And now I'll have to break my back to pull this to my bedroom and actually find some place where to store this giant. Wish me luck.